Welcome back to the Fear
and Beer podcast,
where we discuss all things Halloween Horror Nights, horror movies,
and just a little bit of beer.
I'm Nick.
And I'm Seamus.
Like scary movies.
Uh-huh.
Here's Johnny.
It's alive. It's alive. It's alive.
Did you miss me? Aren't you drinking?
I never drink. Why?
Before we get into tonight's episode, we want to remind all of those listening on Apple Podcasts to drop us a 5-star review. It helps us grow as a podcast and build our audience. If you're listening on Spotify or any other platform, follow us, and don't forget to share with friends and family who might have a little bit of the strange in them as well.
And while you're on those socials, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, be sure to find us, Fear and Beer Pod. Give us a like, share, and you can always message us. We love to interact with all you guys. Back again. So we had a little bit of time off.
Took a Christmas vacation early, I guess.
Yeah. I feel like December is usually our kind of slow down period. We always come up with good intentions of these good episodes, and then family stuff comes up. I did want to just say this episode is probably a little bit less prepared as others. If you did see me posting on the Fear and Beer page the last couple weeks, did have some personal stuff going on. My dog, who was a co-host of ours at times, to be jingling around and stuff like that, had some surgery. Unfortunately, he did not make it. So had to take some time off to kind of regroup. But I'm glad that I have this platform. Some of you probably don't follow our posts, and maybe you just listen to us, so that's kind of the reasoning for the absence. It just sucks, but I did want to just get back into things over here because it's a nice outlet for me to kind of stay busy. Great support from a lot of you folks that were sending your well wishes, and just kind of wanted to update everybody on that. So if you do notice that this episode is a little bit less put together than our others, we've had some stuff going on, unfortunately. But enough of that. Let's get into what we're talking about. So we're going to be talking about the 2015 Christmas horror movie, Krampus, from 2015, starring Adam Scott, Toni Collette, David Koechner, Alison Tolmain, directed by Michael Dougherty, who we know from Trick or Treat. We also should know him from Godzilla King of the Monsters. He directed that. He also helped write this movie alongside Todd Casey, who's done a lot of other things, mostly in the anime world. But we're going to be diving into that tonight. So the 2015, dare I say, classic, Krampus.
Yeah.
Obviously, with Krampus just passed, there was a Krampus Fest in Orlando. We were planning on doing this one last week to better coincide with the dates, but like I talked about, things came up. So we also have a beer. We have a Hefeweizen picked from Fort Myers Brewing. This is their 2022 Oktoberfest. So I don't know if you...
Fits the theme of the movie.
Yeah.
Because obviously Krampus is a German folktale.
Yep.
Very much like Santa Claus as well. He's also a German folktale originally, but... So we might as well go with a German style beer. And as, if anybody is, somewhat of a beer drinker, should know that Oktoberfest is a big festival in Germany, all about drinking beer and enjoying good food and fine folks. But... obviously, Oktoberfest beers have kind of become, I don't want to say kind of become, they've always kind of been for a very long time, staples over here because, beer has been a very big part of the culture in America since the early foundings of the country, to the point when we had a number of, obviously, German immigrants come over and kind of introduce the crazy people here that beer is a good thing and it's a good thing to explore. So obviously a Hefeweizen is a predominantly German style lager. I don't know a lot about this one specifically, but according to Untappd, What they say is it's an oh-so-famous Oktoberfest lager, and it comes to them every year, or comes to us every year, as we celebrate our undying love for beer. This German fest beer has tasty caramel undertones with a delicious malt presence. P.S. It tastes best in Das Boot. If anybody knows what that is, I applaud.
The boot.
Obviously, Beer Fest is an amazing movie. If you haven't seen it, you should see it. Has nothing to do with horror, but it's still a great movie. But yeah, so it's going to be, not a heavy lager, but a heavier than your traditional lager. It'll be a little bit unfiltered, because Hefeweizens are traditionally unfiltered. So they tend to have not a ton of floaties, but they definitely don't tend to be super clear. So it'll be a darker beer, which will be something to look for. So I'm interested to try that. Really don't have a whole lot else to say about it. So if you're in the Florida area, check out Fort Myers Brewing. I think we've had them before in the past. This isn't the first time we've had them, but I don't remember having anything bad. So that's always
it seems like it's always
not
good.
that like we ever have anything bad.
Yeah.
Unless we drink alcoholic coffee, then we have problems.
Then we have the problem. Well, let's crack these open.
Ooh. My nails don't work tonight.
And these are actually new beers. They haven't been sitting in my fridge for a couple months, so they should be ripe, as they say. I was going to say, if you are watching on YouTube, I was going to have the camera a little bit closer so you could see all these cool Krampus postcards I have. I have the little Krampus bell up front. Of course, I have the little gingerbread that is stabbed with the knife. But I pulled the camera back a little bit further because we are going to be playing the movie up top on the screen. You can see about half of the screen because I don't want to get flagged for copyright from the movie playing constantly in the background. But we will be having that playing in the background as we kind of go through scene by scene as best as we can, with a little commentary going on of stuff that we liked. And then at the end, we can also touch on, because you never saw the Krampus house at Halloween Horror Nights.
I did not.
So we can kind of touch on that a little bit. I've always kind of gone on and stated that it is one of my favorite houses. I think I've said it's my favorite house of all time, but then after rewatching kind of a walkthrough, I think I am just more of a sucker for like those holiday themed temperature controlled houses. So maybe I have a little favoritism towards it, but I would like to revisit that house at some point, whether it is redoing of Krampus or their own version of a Christmas horror style house. So before we hit play and get started, let's test these beers out. About half
of mine is
mine took a while to
is
settle.
head, but not that.
I just want to smell the microphone instead of the beer.
Yeah, it's
more Hefeweizen than like an Oktoberfest.
Yeah, it's a traditional Hefeweizen for the most part. I mean, they call it Oktoberfest probably more so because of the event.
Just
granted, I think we put a lot of stock in
Oktoberfest as like a
Sam Adams
fall flavor.
Oktoberfest, which is definitely more of a fall beer than just a traditional Hefeweizen or German style beer.
Yeah.
So when you say Oktoberfest, a lot of times you think of that. Whereas Oktoberfest is really just a festival. It's a term they use to frame the time period. So it could be any style really. But I think generally they're typically Hefeweizens or, some sort of German lager. And it's good. I like it.
It's tasty.
Definitely lighter than I expected it to be, but it's not bad.
I expected, like we were saying, I kind of definitely have that, it's not really a bias, but a presumed notion that it would have been like that brown fall style thing, but it is a Hefeweizen, so it's more Hefeweizen than it is Oktoberfest. So if you're getting it expecting that Oktoberfest, don't expect the Oktoberfest, because you're going to get pretty much just kind of a traditional, very weedy Hefeweizen, which is good. So nothing against that. So let's hit play on this movie. Let's see if it starts behind us. Oh, and it's going to give me the little Blu-ray combo ad first. And we're gonna get all the "don't steal this DVD or else we'll put you in jail" kind of nonsense. But let's get into this. So I guess before we even like dive in scene by scene, do you want to go through like, do you have first impressions of this? Do you remember, did you rewatch it recently?
I didn't rewatch it this week before the episode, but I've seen it a couple of times now. Obviously, as Nick well knows, I saw it for the first time this year.
Oh yes,
I
forgot about
had never
that.
actually sat down and watched it. And I think part of it is just unfortunately, life catches up with you, and it's really hard to sit down and catch up with every movie you missed.
And as soon as you miss one, like 6 months later, it's
right,
forgotten.
it's one of those movies where I always said, since it dropped back in 2015, that, I want to watch that movie, and eventually you just forget, because there's so many other things that happen in life and come up in life, and especially just movies in general. There's so many new movies that come out. So I kind of just put it on the back burner and never decided to go back and watch it until probably a couple months ago when I finally sat down. It was on Peacock, and I was like, you know what? Let's throw this on. I got nothing else to watch. So I threw it on. I watched it. First time I watched it, really enjoyed it. Second time I watched it, maybe a little less so, but still, it's a fun movie.
Yeah.
I don't have bad things to say about it. There are some things where it feels a certain way for me, and again, we've talked about kind of like how I look for certain things in movies. I think there are better Christmas horror movies than this one, but again, this is also, I think, dare you say, potentially a classic at this point.
Yeah, because it's just
been out for a while. It's one of the first ones you think of when you think of Christmas movie, or
Christmas
scary
horror
Christmas
movies,
movie. A movie you can watch at both holidays. I guess is the best way to put it. Can you watch this movie at Halloween and at Christmas? So yeah, there's just a few others that I think I prefer, but it doesn't make this one bad by any means.
No, I think, and it's fun too because it's like it is a different take. Normally, like, when we look at those quintessential Christmas horrors, you automatically think like Silent Night, Deadly Night, where it's like, oh, serial killer slasher, put him in a Santa suit, theme it around Christmas, call it a day.
Yeah, that came from a time period where they had to turn every single holiday had to be turned into some sort of slasher movie. And not to say that some of those movies are bad,
but some of them are bad.
But they are pretty bad anyways, and you have to be able to find the humor in it to find enjoyment out of it. Obviously, with like Silent Night, Deadly Night, like we reviewed that one last Christmas. Was it last year we reviewed that, or the year before?
Might have been last year.
I think it was last year. I think we all generally liked it for what it
fun.
was.
Yeah,
it's a fun movie to watch. It's a little weird, and I think it does try to take itself a little too serious. Whereas a movie like this knows exactly what
goofy.
it is.
It's half
a
comedy.
Well-made, goofy horror comedy, and I think it works. Especially when you've got guys like David Koechner and Adam Scott, who are quintessential comedy actors. They're not
Parks and Rec and The Office, like
right
Anchorman. That's,
exactly. So that's what you think of them for when you think of those two actors. And then you've got, of course, Toni Collette, who is the
kind of being the horror queen now.
Scream queen now. Yeah,
the new age
I would
horror
say
queen.
Scream queen because she's not even like a screamer, but she's just so good, and she raises the level and the bar of all these movies that she's in. That traditionally you should just be like, it's gonna be some cheesy horror movie, meh,
bad acting.
But like when you have like Toni Collette in it, and she just raises the bar and makes it that much better.
It's like, wait, we can make horror movies with actual actresses that can actually act.
All I can say is Hereditary is one of the best horror movies of the last 5-10 years, and she's the reason why. So not only, but she's primarily the reason why.
So this movie was released on December 4th, and it was originally going to be November 25th, but they did move it up so that it would coordinate with
Christmas,
with Krampus, which is the December 5th. So the intro of the movie, opening scene, kind of the slow motion worst of Christmas. You get all the gift buyers, the naggers, the people.
Oh, the opening scene is so good.
Pushing around with like the cheerful holiday music playing,
it's
fighting
like,
over toys.
What's that Arnold movie?
Oh, Jingle All the Way.
Jingle All the Way. It's basically
he got tools.
Yeah,
Get the mailman.
I mean, it's basically that, but it's slow mo. It's so good. Like this whole opening scene is perfect for me. It's like one of the perfect
kids crying,
perfect opening scenes to a movie.
Yep. And then we get to Max, who was inside in a rehearsal of sorts, like the manger and all that stuff, and he's fighting another kid.
The weird like Jesus show going on in the middle of a store.
The Jesus show of children in the show. He's fighting another kid because apparently we find out in the next scene that
he's a piece of shit.
Yeah, the kid
Not
was
Max.
like,
Not Max.
the kid
The
was
kid's a piece of shit.
Bad mouthing Christmas or making fun of people that believe in Christmas or something and believe in Santa and all that stuff. So that kind of shows you that right from the get go, Max is kind of like the bearer of Christmas. He's the one that still holds the spirit true, and that notion is pretty important throughout this movie. We kind of cut towards now. The family is getting ready for their relatives to come over for Christmas, who are going to be very Christmas vacation style of you know, the in-laws are coming, not everyone's going to get along and stuff like that. And that's a tone that gets through this whole movie as well. Is most of those Christmas movies, when it's, you know, the families are together, they're button heads, they can't seem to make it work, and then at the end there's a Christmas miracle, everyone loves each other, you know, Christmas Vacation, Home Alone, all stuff like that, everything works out. This is kind of taking it and spinning it, where it's like, no, this family does not get along, they continue to not get along, and that's what kind of fractures at the end of the movie, which is pretty much their demise. So the family does show up. David Koechner, his wife Linda, I believe it is, their kids, Howie Jr., just like this just grotesque little child, pretty plump,
who doesn't
some
talk.
weird lips, doesn't talk. Yeah, it's the weird I don't know. His lips are just weird. The two daughters, Stevie, and I'm drawing a blank right now on the other girl's name.
Oh, it's Stevie and
I have it written down like a bunch of times there, but it's Stevie and Jordan.
Jordan, there you go.
Who I think are actual real life sisters. I'm not positive on that, but they come on in, and then they forgot the baby in the car, because why would they remember their own child? Kind of like Uncle Eddie or from Christmas Vacation, not remembering how many kids they got. And then they have one unexpected guest, which is Aunt Dorothy, who's already seeking out the eggnog because she needs to get merry.
I don't blame her.
Yeah, no, with this family, I would be slamming the eggnog, that's for sure. We kind of cut to a dinner time after a quick notion that Linda says that it seems like Martha Stewart threw up in her house, in Toni Collette's house, which her name is Sarah. Pretty bad with the names in general, so reading through these is pretty tough. So it's like, sorry that we actually decorated for Christmas, sorry that we have a house that's appealing, sorry. We go to a dinner scene where Howie Jr. is just chugging a 2-liter of what looks to be like Mountain Dew, so he's just fucking awesome. That little kid is not going to get what's coming to him, that's for sure. Adam Scott mentions during this dinner that he was training as a kid, and when they kind of prod on that he was training for the Eagle Scouts, not military, like David Koechner was kind of getting at to make fun of him, essentially. But he said that he was trained for survival training, so that's a little bit of a foreshadowing. That's kind of somebody you'd want in this situation. And one line that I always did seem to enjoy that comes up a couple times. That's funny. Is David Koechner refers to his family and himself as like he's the shepherd that needs to protect his flock. Just he's definitely that like military, or he's not military. I feel like he's the hardo wannabe military.
Whacker who has lights on his truck even though he's not a police officer, carries guns in a gun rack, and drives a Hummer.
Yep. Probably wears camo pants.
Talking about storming the beaches in Normandy. We haven't got to that point yet.
Yes, that was one of my good lines that I do enjoy as well. Dorothy being like the ungrateful, just kind of pretty much just comic relief, essentially. She's just the one in the corner that everyone's got that person in their family for the most part that's like, oh, this person came.
I feel like they took a lot of characters from traditional family Christmas movies over the years and kind of like modeled each character after someone from one of those movies.
Yep.
Like she's definitely like the mom from Christmas Vacation.
Yep.
Is Betty White, isn't that Betty White?
I think so, yeah.
I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that's the Betty White character. She's basically her, more or less. And obviously, like, Koechner's like a cross between
like Cousin Eddie
and a few other weirdo, hardo people. Like, so they're definitely like they're harping a lot of the Christmas movies,
the tropes,
but then adding a horror element to it.
Because it really is like it doesn't feel like two separate movies essentially, but it really is. Like the first part is a Christmas movie, and the second part is the like horror fantasy style aspect of things. So Aunt Dorothy asks who doesn't cook a ham, and then Toni replies with, "Oh, I thought you needed a break from hot dogs and mac and cheese," which kind of a dig at the in-laws or the aunts and uncles.
The sister.
The sister, because that's
the poor sister.
That's the Uncle Eddie. Like we said, this is the Uncle Eddie clan that live in a trailer. You can only imagine like they're like just like Vegas Vacation or the irregular Vacation. Like you go there and it's just wasteland, and something about the microwave dinging and making Eddie's head go off. So just good overall conversations throughout the night at dinner. The twins motioned for Max to come on, and was like, "Hey, heard the news. Santa got shot down." Yep. He had to eat his reindeer. Just harping on the poor kid who like is just holding on to that last hope of Christmas, that last little bit of magic. And his shitty little like twin cousins just got to beat it out of him. So the twins actually end up stealing Max's letter to Santa Claus, and they start reading it aloud, but I'm sure they wish they hadn't, because throughout it, Max wishes his parents got along better. He wants Santa to help his aunt and uncle, and says that he wishes their life wouldn't be so tough. And then I forget the exact line, but he says that he wishes like his uncle didn't wish that the twins were girls or something like, or he wishes they were boys or something like that. That's when they kind of stop reading the letter, and it's like,
my dad doesn't wish I was a boy.
Yeah, it's like he doesn't. Yeah. She doesn't say what he wrote out loud. She just kind of reads silently and goes, "Hey, my dad doesn't wish I was a boy," or something like that. And then at that point, Max kind of flips over the table or rushes over to them, takes the letter, starts fighting. Just a great start to the family staying in.
Oh, I had to. Sorry, days. I don't mean to cut off and go back. You did mention the whole sister thing, but the real life sisters. Mm-hmm. You're half right.
Okay.
One of the twins or sisters is actually the sister of the cousin girl, Beth.
Okay.
She and her sister were playing cousins.
Okay.
In this movie.
Gotcha. Because I thought there was something like that.
So you're like you were on the right track. Right. I just happened to be reading through some of the trivia on it. So
good. No, I like that because I like having the random trivia facts throughout. Max rushes upstairs, and that's where Adam Scott kind of comes in, like, "Hey, bud, I can't really fight everybody." And he's like, "Why?" Like, pretty much just essentially like, "Why do we have to put up with them?" And then like Adam Scott's reply where he's like, "Well, that's what family is."
I like how they could have made Max like a spoiled little shit, but they didn't. Like he's kind of an asshole a little bit. He's a little bit of an asshole.
He's a spaz.
He's a spastic asshole, but he's like, but you kind of.
He's not wrong.
But you feel for him.
Yeah, he's not wrong.
Man, I mean, I get it. Like he wants to still like have Christmas like it always had been. Which, come to think of it, these families are so awful. Like, were their Christmases ever good? How old is this kid? Like 14? Like, dude, like how many Christmases do you remember?
When did you have a good Christmas?
That was like good compared to what I mean, because I'm sure this family did not change.
No,
and since you were like from the time you were a little kid,
they're probably all the same for the last like 10 years.
Your sister's a fucking asshole, horned up crazy person who wants to go
to the boyfriend,
smoke a bong with a boyfriend's house, smoke a bong at the boyfriend's house, and you've got cousins who hate everything that isn't fun.
Yep. They just want to wrestle and shoot stuff.
I can't imagine your Christmases were that much better than they are
ever,
right now.
Ever, no.
But hey, you know what? I get it. I get where you're coming from.
Yep. Adam Scott refers to family as people you try to be friends with even though you don't have a lot in common. He's like, well, that doesn't make sense. Like, well,
I wanted Max
it makes you work harder to find what you do have.
I just wanted Max to be like, "Dad, you didn't defend me at all down there. You told me to stop fighting.
Yeah,
they're over here like humiliating me in front of the entire family. No big deal though."
So that's kind of the end of the first night. So we wake up the next morning. I believe it's morning, but all the power has gone out overnight. The lights are off. I think the heat is off. The electricity, phones, everything's kind of killed. And it's blizzarding outside. But then there's somehow like a snowman mysteriously out in the front yard, which none of them built.
Creepy snowman.
Creepy snowman. Max makes note of that, and everyone else sort of dismisses it because at this point that's sort of the least of the worries. And there's a knock at the door, and it's the DHL delivery man who's dropping off a package. And as they open the door, there's a big sack, like a Santa sack outside.
Full of gifts.
Yep. And then the family's like, or Aunt Linda answered the door and was like, well, what is this? Like, I don't know. The boys in brown must have dropped it off, obviously referring to the UPS driver. But they pull the sack in and they don't really make note of it too much after that. Like, I feel like it just kind of got brushed to the side.
Yeah, they don't make a big deal about it. I think it's one of those things where we're, as an audience, we're supposed to just pick up on it and go, that's probably not a good thing. You shouldn't bring that in the house.
No.
and they do anyways. Because I remember vividly saying out loud, because I do this.
Like, what the hell
I
is that?
react by myself, and when I'm alone watching movies. And I said, like, don't bring that in the house.
Yeah.
And you brought it in the house. All right, probably
And
not
you're morons.
a good idea.
You are.
But yeah, it's definitely not like it's not alluded to in any way until obviously when shit kicks off and it becomes a little crazier. But
Yep. So Beth decides that she needs to leave to go check on her boyfriend, who's only a few blocks away. The parents agree and tell her, pretty much get back in an hour, because at this point, other than it being a crazy blizzard, there isn't really much going on. They did. I don't know if they make note of it yet, but I think it was around this time where they make note that like all the neighbors are essentially gone. So and so's in Florida, so and so's down in Mexico. So being kind of alone at that point, that aspect of things wasn't abnormal. Their neighbors weren't home to begin with, so seeing nobody out doing stuff isn't like a cause for alarm or anything like that. So she walks out to go to her boyfriend's house, and it slowly gets darker. And then you can kind of hear voices around. You hear some bells and thudding, and then a giant horned creature lands on top of one of the houses and then jumps to one of the other. So she kind of sees it, freezes up, and starts running. She comes up onto the DHL van with the delivery guy, and he's frozen inside.
one of like the only actual death in this movie.
Real
Spoilers.
death, essentially.
Spoilers.
Yeah. She hides under the car, but then Krampus, we know it's Krampus now. I mean, you'd have to not know that, but you see his little horned feet kind of walking around the car, and he leaps away. And then all of a sudden, there's like a little Jack in the Box playing Silent Night, and then it opens, and out comes, we don't know, because it cuts to like an aerial shot of the van rocking and Beth screaming. So at that point, we are assuming that Beth is done for, but the family has no knowledge of any of that yet. More and more snowmen are back popping up around the house, but there's no cars, there's no people, anything outside. So like I said, the neighbors are gone, but still no cars driving by would probably leave me a little suspect, even like from being up north when we have blizzards. We're used to them, so like you still see people, you especially see plows. You see plows going constantly, so to not see a plow would be a little alarming. But it's now dark out, and Beth is not back yet. So they decide that they need to go use Howard's Hummer for what he refers to as a recon mission, because of course he does, and of course he has a Hummer. Douchebag.
Yeah, he definitely
such a tool.
I think these are some of the things that we've already kind of talked about are some of the reasons why I don't hold this movie as in high esteem as some people do. I think his character is so cliche.
It's very
that
cliche.
It's like almost cringe. It's almost cringe to watch, and I don't like. I understand like you gotta kind of make the dichotomy of the two families, but like you're harping so much on that, that typical hardo uncle who thinks he's, like we talked about already, who thinks he's like in the military or was in the military, even though he wasn't, or whatever. Even if he was, he's still that hardo. Like, I have to be hard for the sake of being hard, and I have to talk
These
about
colors don't run.
I got to talk about penises and farts and guns, and like, it's just, I feel like they could have done the whole like he's clearly different than Adam Scott's character, but not been so heavy on the stupid ridiculousness of his character.
Yeah.
But that's just one of the few things that I have. I feel like they kind of do that with a lot of the characters. I think they're all kind of over the top, and I understand the point of it, but
yeah. And this is where we get the line that you love. He said he could point it due east, hint the gas, and be storming the beaches of Normandy by sunrise.
Right.
Like, I don't know if you know how geography works. You can't really drive there necessarily.
Where is this town? I would assume this town is somewhere in the north.
Yeah.
Probably in the Midwest.
It's definitely in America.
So, like, you're clearly not driving across the Atlantic Ocean and the English Channel.
But regardless, Howard and Tom head out. And Ami at this point, we haven't really mentioned, but she is the grandmother, the mother of Tom.
The German.
And she's pretty cautious at this point. She seems a little off, but she doesn't want them to go out.
She's the one stoking the fire almost immediately, and like you kind of know right from that.
She's in the background doing stuff, and you're like,
yeah, you
wonder
know
what she's doing.
You know she's important to the story in that sense, especially because she's speaking to Adam in German, and you know this movie's about Krampus, so you're like, all right, so obviously she's
there's
got
a
a
connection.
past.
Yep.
And she's stoking the fire and kind of quietly, like, and for me, I remember watching that part of the movie where they start kind of getting a little more concerned. The daughter's on home, she's stoking the fire, and I see her do that, and I go, she's doing that because she knows what's happening.
Yeah.
She's already aware of what's going on.
She's planning. Yep.
And she knows that that's where they kind of come from. So
you
like,
have to keep the fire
they need
hot.
to keep the fire hot, so that way you keep, the evil fucking
Krampus.
gingerbread cookies out of the damn fireplace. But
yeah. While Howard and Tom are driving, like they make note, global warming my ass. It's negative 20 degrees outside. Don't necessarily know if that'll affect
again,
that too much.
I don't think he understands science. But again, that's the part of the character that I can't stand, is that he's just so over the top. He's so unbelievably like red state, hardcore hardo.
Yeah.
And I'm not even trying to get into politics, but I'm just saying, like,
as a character
as a
perspective.
character build, as a very vapid, shallow character, he fits the bill.
Yeah.
Nothing to say against David Koechner. He's a funny man, but like
He could play this character to a T.
But that's exactly it. So like that's, I don't want to get back on this, but like if they had picked someone completely unexpected to play that character, it would have been better. Like at least if you gave me somebody like
who would have been
unrealistic playing an unrealistic character, that would have been fine.
No, who would have been great? Danny McBride.
Yeah, he would have been better. He would have been funnier. They probably couldn't, because they had to keep this at a PG-13. They probably wouldn't have been able to put him in it. But he would have been better than David Koechner. But I'm even thinking like someone like, give me like Rick Moranis in his prime, like the little nerdy guy who comes in, and just like a hardo, and you're like,
clearly he's not. Yeah,
clearly, like at least then at that point, it's absurd for the sake of being absurd.
Yeah,
I don't know. I feel like it was too easy to
even if you flipped like Adam Scott and Koechner.
Yeah. If you did it that way, that would have been even better.
Yeah,
but neither here nor there. It's just
that was the direction they chose, and they went into it.
Right. So.
While they're driving around, they kind of come across a snowplow that is stopped in the road and
snowplow
seemingly vacated. Yep, there it is, up the road a little bit.
They see the light flashing.
Yep, so they see the lights going. They kind of go up to it. There's nobody in there, but the keys are in the ignition. There's presents on the seat. They notice that the windows is smashed, and of course, David Koechner, being the idiot character, goes, "Oh man, the guy must have been flying out." And that kind of goes into Adam Scott saying, "No, the window is smashed in."
Yeah, something hit the window and went in.
So, like, there's clear difference. The guy didn't go through the window. Something came in through the window itself. And they look across the street to a house, and the house is just completely ransacked. So this is when Howard goes to the back of his Hummer and unloads his shotgun, and then gives Tom a gun as well, because, of course, Howard's got, like you said, a gun rack that is just at the ready in the back of his Hummer, while he's going to Christmas vacation in the suburbs. Sure. It kind of jumps back and forth now at this point a little bit. So we're back at home, and there's a little creaking on the top of the house. And then Toni Collette says that it's squirrels. And then everyone's like, in a blizzard? Yeah. Squirrels running around in a blizzard? Sure. And then there's a giant thud. And that's when everyone gets really concerned. And Toni Collette replies again with, "See, I told you, squirrels." And at that point, this is where Ami looks up the chimney, like sticks her head into it, looks up it. And at that point, that's when you start really going like, okay, she's onto something that we aren't necessarily picking up yet. So she's kind of, like you said, she's the one that holds the backstory, and maybe she's just holding on to it in hopes that this is just a blizzard. Maybe that was a tree fall. Like trying to look past some of the negatives and be like, hey, it could not be. It could be not Krampus. It could be something else, but we don't know. So Tom and Howard are now entering that vacated house, and that's where Beth is supposed to be, because we see a picture on the floor, I believe, of Beth and her boyfriend from like prom. But everything in the house is covered in like frost. Everything's like, the picture frames have frost on it, everything. And there's a gingerbread man with a knife, just like this guy right here, stuck into the fridge, and Howard kind of looks up to inspect it. There's a giant hole in the wall, and they respond that a gas line must have blown. But there's also 2 giant hoof marks on the ground. And of course, Howard knows from his hunting experience that it's either a goat or an elk. But Adam Scott, Adam Scott replies with like, well, what kind of goat walks on its hind legs? So it's definitely like, David Koechner's Howard does have some information, but Adam Scott's definitely the intelligent one that looks at it and doesn't just dismiss the fact that, yeah, those are definitely like goat or elk hooves, but why is there only 2 of them? That he's the one that questions a lot of the information that Koechner puts forward. And then all of a sudden we hear a scream, and it's from Beth. So they head towards that area where they hear it, and they try and brave off the dark, and it gets darker and colder, and the snow is up to their calves. So they're just kind of trudging along. And then all of a sudden Howard is bitten by something. Something is growling and pulling him back, and it's under the snow, and Tom pulls him out. They start shooting into the snow, and whatever it is kind of rushes away. So you can see the snow burrow away in like a snake pattern. They rush to the Hummer because his leg got chewed up by whatever is in there. But then the Hummer is stripped. It's on fire. It's completely smashed, like something very big jumped onto it. So then they have to run back to the house. We do cut back to the house now, just as Sarah, Toni Collette's character, was getting worried, saying that they need to go out look for them. But right as she's about to open the door to leave, they burst in with maybe a jump scare, something that's just weren't really expecting the 2 scenes to collide so quick. But of course they come busting in screaming. His leg's all cut up and bleeding. The children are there. Everyone's screaming, and they have to instantly try to like downplay the situation in front of them.
There's a baby involved in all this too.
Yeah, well, we probably forgot about it just as much as their family forgot about it. I did notice that was
forgotten in a truck.
Yeah, one of their notes. There wasn't many notes on this movie, but one of the notes was to make the baby cry less. I guess audiences don't want to just see babies crying the whole time.
Then don't put a baby in the movie.
Yep. Because it really serves no purpose.
Guarantee that's like Dougherty's like niece or his daughter or something, and they're like, we need to throw this in the movie.
Put the baby in. Yep. So they, like I said, they try to instantly downplay the situation. And Howard says that he must have stepped on a bear trap, and then of course Max was instantly like, we don't have bears here. It's like, just get the kids out of the room. Let the adults deal with this, stuff like that.
So the aunt takes him into the kitchen to teach him how to make like a hot
peppermint schnapps.
Peppermint schnapps.
Yep. And she lets Howie, the little
giving him
fuck,
alcohol.
have one. Yeah. Clearly not the babysitter of the year award. So they're patching him up, and they're trying to kind of decide what to do. They decide that they need to stay put. They need to board up all the windows and doors. You can't go anywhere. They have, Howard says, damn near frostbite in under 4 minutes. So as their faces were all completely red. So it's just, there is no way to get out. The Hummer's destroyed. I'm assuming all they have is Adam Scott's cars, but they don't go towards that option at the moment because they don't know where they would go. The roads aren't really plowed, so they can't go anywhere in the little mid-size cars. And clearly something is out there causing a ruckus, so they gotta start boarding everything up. The family's all held up now with the kids using like the last of their battery life on their iPads because, they gotta be distracted. Tom and Howard decide that they need to take shifts sleeping. And Howard goes, he once again recites the shepherd line, shepherd's got to protect his flock, and he chooses to kind of take first watch.
Which inevitably...
Yeah, we
actually kind of at that point
now.
I think we're already at that point.
We are pretty much right at that point,
but...
and that scene cuts directly to Howard snoring. So he...
Yeah. Which, again, one of those things where, like, saw that coming a mile. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's just one of those things where there's so many things about this movie you just see coming. And I guess that...
Oh, yeah, there he is sleeping right now.
To give benefit to the doubt, or give them the benefit of the doubt, that maybe that's just that they knew they were going to do that. Like, it's kind of what they're going for. But, yeah, I don't know. It's like, oh, yeah, he's sleeping. That makes sense.
Of course he is.
Oh, the fire's going out. Yep. Oh.
Yep, no one's at watch. Like, Adam Scott would have stayed up. Boy Scout would have stayed up. So as soon as like the fire pretty much is essentially embers at this point, everybody's sleeping. The phone screens die, and we instantly hear like giggling coming from upstairs and in the chimney. And then a hook slowly comes down over the fireplace with a gingerbread man on it, essentially doing a recon, I guess. He's CGI laughing, jingling the chains, making sure nobody wakes up. And then finally, Howie wakes up. Howie Jr., not Howard. And he, of course, sees the gingerbread man on a hook in the chimney and goes over, grabs it, and bites its head.
Oh, he's a little fat boy. Of course he's hungry.
Yeah, of course he is. Because you wouldn't think twice about this weird gingerbread man thing on a hook that just mysteriously appeared inside a smoke.
Again, like that. There's, I don't know. There's so many characters where it's just like, oh my god, like why did he have to be like a dumb drooling? Like
it's like the kid from Bad Santa.
You couldn't just give him a line.
Yeah,
give him a line.
It's like the kid from Bad Santa that cuts his hand making the Christmas pickle.
Yeah, right. Basically.
And as he bites his head, the gingerbread man wakes up and wraps him in the chain and pulls him up the chimney. And at that point, the whole collective family wakes up. And there's this kind of tug of war trying to get him back, and they pull his feet. A log during this tussle comes out of the chimney, lights the Christmas tree on fire, and at the end, they lose the tug of war, and Howie Jr. is sucked up the chimney. But I do like the one shot of Howard looking up, and the shoe just falls and hits him in the face. He's like, "Ow!" Like it wasn't like it was just such a silent like deadpan laugh moment. I was like, oh, "Of course." Instantly, Omni starts to light the fire back up and starts speaking German, saying that this is all of our fault, and he's come for us. And then she then tells us the story of Krampus. So this is where we get our quintessential Christmassy claymation style animation,
this is probably my favorite part of the movie.
Yep, which is half claymation, half
it's like stop animation. It's
all like cardboard
cutout animation. Yep. Yeah, it's cool.
So everything is cardboard cutout during this scene except Omni, because we want her to be the focal point. But this is the telling of the story of when Omni was a young girl. The village she was in was not really cheerful anymore, and it was definitely a very impoverished country. And tensions were high, and the family was no longer a loving family. Essentially, Christmas spirit was dead. She wished not for a Christmas miracle, but for her family to go away. And in the blizzard, she got her wish. A dark, more ancient spirit than St. Nicholas came. The shadow of St. Nicholas. Krampus. Which I like that term of the shadow of St. Nicholas. It's not just like an evil goat figure. It's an offshoot of Santa. It is literally the dark, mysterious figure that follows Santa around, his shadow.
Yeah, and it's kind of why they have him in a Santa's mask. Like Krampus doesn't actually have a human face.
It's a goat figure, essentially.
Like devil type face, but he wears a
it's like the skin of an old man, essentially.
A Santa skin mask, like a straight up like I don't know, like Buffalo Bill like thing going on.
Which I kind of like. It's different. Some quick notes that I watched like a little behind the scenes thing of like the suit itself. So that is a full suit with a person in it. He's wearing leg extensions with the hooves on the bottom, so he can walk in there.
Yeah, they got a lot of their ideas from like these postcards and stuff. Like old drawing, not these specific ones, but like the drawings and the paintings and stuff from history, especially like Austrian, German history. They took a lot of that inspiration to create the suit. Like, honestly, Krampus is. And he has to be, but he's like the best part of this movie. He's the focal point of the movie.
The ringleader.
And I think they did a really, really good job of giving us like a traditional look rather than just giving us some super hyper CGI monster.
Yeah.
Like there's some CGI where it has to be when he's jumping around on rooftops and stuff, but when he's up close, you get some like really legitimate, like good costume work.
And I do believe like CGI work, I believe all the houses were like CGI. Like,
everything was done on a soundstage.
Yeah,
like,
which is crazy.
Of the movie was filmed on a soundstage, and I guess according to from what we've heard in other podcasts and stuff, is that a lot of the houses in the neighborhood are actually horror houses, famous horror houses.
Okay.
So if you like took the time to pause and like
see which
point them out, you could see certain ones. I've obviously haven't done that, but at some point I would like to at least look it up because I haven't actually done that. I want to see which ones are which. Yeah.
So again, with the whole Krampus outfit. The guy in there couldn't see, but inside the mask was like a little LCD screen.
Oh, wow.
So he would watch through that. And if you do notice, there are like, they look almost like bullet holes in like Krampus's, the cheek of the face. Those are the camera holes that relay to the TV.
Huh.
So that's how he looks at stuff.
I mean, he's so hunched over that makes a little bit of sense.
So it's just a little screen in there that he's looking into the screen, which is pretty fun. And then back to the little Ami story. She responds that Krampus, he came not to reward but to punish, not to give but to take. And we kind of cut back to real time where Howard calls it senile horse shit. A twisted bedtime story.
Senile horse shit?
Yeah. And he's hell-bent on getting Howie back. So he grabs a shotgun and goes outside against everyone's wishes. It's sort of like a tussle. He actually points the gun at Adam Scott's character from the entire family. Like, I've never been in that situation, so I can't say, I won't do that, but I probably would not do that. So they open the door, and then there's a lot of laughter from outside as soon as they open the door. And you can see these little creatures hiding behind the snowmen, ducking back and forth, cutting between the trees and stuff like that. We haven't really been introduced to these characters yet, so we're sort of left in the dark of like exactly what they are. But we will find out what they are shortly. But it's now Christmas Eve. Midnight has ticked over. Omni tells them that it's not what you do, but what you believe. And the twins start asking, like, well, if we leave out cookies and milk, and, like, if we do, like, it's pretty much they're asking, like, can they just, like, instantly be nice to people and then, like, everything goes away? It's like, no, that's not really how it works. And then Omni says something else in German, but Max can't translate this. And Aunt Dorothy looks at her and says, she knows what she said. She says we're all fucked. And then, like, Omni, like, looks at her, she's like, yeah, I guess so. Like, yeah, pretty much. Like,
it's rough probably translation,
yeah,
but yes.
But yeah, essentially that. Like, Aunt Dorothy kind of knows what's up. Like, if I had to be somebody in this situation, I'd probably want to be Aunt Dorothy. Just drinking, no no direct 100%. Kids there.
That would be me.
Don't care. Like, I don't have to go protect anybody. I'm just here to die, essentially.
I'd be hammered at that point. Fuck it.
Yeah, here comes the peppermint schnapps. Linda starts going through all the burnt presents. And comes upon a jack-in-the-box. And she listens slowly as it ticks. And she's about to open it, but Sarah comes out, and they have devised a new plan of like what they're going to be doing now. So Tom says they need to get to that snowplow because the keys were still in it. They need to get in, put everyone in the car, and get out of Dodge. So the snowplow would kind of plow the roads, and the car would follow behind it. Perfect. The jack-in-the-box, which is upstairs, and the other toys start shaking and giggling. So this was up in the attic, I believe it was. Max is in his room looking through some binoculars, and he sees Krampus on a roof. Almost kind of like that shot in Signs where, like, the alien's there. He takes the binoculars down to look because he's, like, kind of unsure what he saw. He looks back, and it's gone now. It's like, oh, okay. Well, I'm sure I saw that, but, like, I can't see it now. Jordan and Stevie head upstairs because they need to use bathroom because Aunt Dorothy clogged the crapper downstairs. Of course, I mean, all the gingerbread and peppermint schnapps will do some damage on the old digestive system. And this is probably one of my favorite lines is they ask if they think they took Howie because of the time he painted the cats. It's like, this kid sucks. He doesn't talk. He's dumb as shit. He eats a gingerbread. He paints cats.
I think he's like related to Dougherty, and he was just like, we got to put this kid in the movie somehow. Mm-hmm. Like, I can't. Why else would you have two non-speaking roles? To me, it's just, I don't know. It's weird to me, but you know, hey, sure. I am the one on the podcast that asks weird questions. So.
Right. A mysterious voice starts to call them by name, like Jordan, Stevie. It's up in the attic, and they think it's Beth. And that's how dumb they are, because they're like, oh, Beth, what are you doing upstairs? Everyone's been looking for you. Like, yeah, she's just been hiding in the attic for 2 days or a day and a half at this point.
Hiding up in the attic alone.
In the cold attic, because there's no power. Yeah, just, sure. They go up there, and then we cut to downstairs, and we hear their screams.
This is the creepiest part of the movie.
Yep, so then they rush upstairs, weapons at the ready, and then Howard stays on the first floor because he's still injured with his leg, and he hears noises in the kitchen, and he calls Rosie, the bulldog, to go over there and check it out, but then she just kind of walks away. So Howard now goes towards the kitchen. Tom, Linda, and Sarah enter the attic with flashlights, but nothing is now heard. The girls are kind of silent. They shine lights around, and this is where we start to really get into the horror like aspect of the movie.
This is where some of that dark fantasy comes in.
Yep. And some of the best stuff. I mean, this movie, for whatever faults it might have, its character design
Practical work is
like,
really good.
Yeah, the creatures,
Really good practical
characters, great. And then they shine a light over and they see that the toy boxes, like all the presents, have been chewed out. So now back down to the kitchen. Howard enters the kitchen to see broken plates and gingerbread men giggling. And he goes...
Voiced by Seth Green, by the way.
Were they? I didn't know that.
Quote unquote, because
Okay.
I don't really say anything, but one of them was Justin Roiland and the other one was Seth Green.
Oh, okay. All right. Howard like kind of looks towards the little food cubby as he inspects that it has been opened up. Upstairs there is a large Jack-in-the-Box now that's lit up by the flashlights, and it's slowly moving its head up, and it appears that it's swallowing one of the girls as the boots are going down the mouth, and it wipes its mouth with the blood, and it kind of has almost like predator jowls. Like It has like the mandible of a predator essentially.
Screams like a...
It screams.
That's
Yeah,
so weird.
and it's cool.
Such a weird,
and again,
weird thing.
that is played by a person.
Oh, yeah,
there's
that
the
doesn't
arms
surprise
in
me.
there. They just kind of wrapped it
A lot
up.
of them, they looked a lot like puppets.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of them looked like puppets. The tree topper angel thing.
Yep. So
was
those
terrifying.
three are all puppets. The cherub, the little angel-y cherub thing, the teddy bear, and then the little robot guy are all puppets.
Yeah.
This one was an actual person. The thing that was puppeted was its mouth. So that was like by control, opening and shut and stuff
It's
like
kind
that.
of like, again, you say predator. It's a good analogy because Predator. Most of the Predator movies, there's a gentleman in the costume,
Mm-hmm.
but the mandibles are like radio controlled,
Automated.
mechanics.
Yep.
Well, that will move like his mandibles and stuff.
Yeah.
As he makes when he emotes and stuff like that. So that's kind of like, it's a good analogy to say the big Jack-in-the-Box snake thing.
Yeah.
Is very much like a predator.
Yeah. So now we jump back downstairs to Howard, and he now is getting shot with a nail gun by the gingerbread man. He ducks in cover, uses a cutting board for cover. We jump back to the attic now. This scene it is a little chaotic because it bounces back and forth a lot. But we are now in the attic, and they find the demonic angel that kind of flies down and attacks Sarah while a teddy bear rushes Linda. Howard is now downstairs firing shots at the gingerbread, and he causes an explosion. I guess maybe he hit a stove that was on. I don't know what exploded.
Open gas line no one knew about.
But sure, it blew up. The angel is sticking its like long tongue out and it's licking Sarah's face, and then Tom gets attacked by a robot, which is very like reminded me of like Puppet Master, like just very like. Nowadays it's not stop animation, but it felt very like.
Yeah, it definitely. It's honestly, I completely forgot about the robot.
Yeah.
Until I watched it.
It's a pretty like.
Time. I was like, oh, that's right. There was a killer robot.
Stabbing him with scissors.
But I think because of how good the Jack Snake in the Box thing and the evil
like cherub
looking thing, those two are so iconic. They're so easy to remember, so burn into your brain when you see it for the first time.
Yeah.
You forget about like the kind of generic little killer robot.
Yeah. Yep. Howard is now like on the floor shooting towards the gingerbread man while they're rushing him. And the last gingerbread man is diving towards him with like a sharpened candy cane ready to stab him. And he closes his eyes, but then that's when Rosie the bulldog jumps in, and they don't I think this shot would have been too hard for them to show. So you cut to the gingerbread man flying towards it, and then you cut to the dog chewing and licking its mouth. So like we know that the dog saved the day at the last minute, ate the gingerbread man, but it probably wasn't in the budget to make the dog eat the gingerbread man, because those were the only CGI things in this.
They were like the real heavy
CGI characters, I should say. The angel is now attempting to hang Sarah with Christmas lights. Linda sees Stevie's body and gets up, and she goes berserker mode at this point. She hits all the toys with an axe, rushes towards the Jack-in-the-Box, and then as she does it, retreats, and she gets Stevie. So Stevie is still okay at this point. And Max kind of calls for everyone, I guess, downstairs. Everyone kind of regroups in the living room, and the ceiling begins to crack. The Jack-in-the-Box falls down through the ceiling. I like the one thing they came down and Howard's like, oh, what's going on up there or something. She's like, I can't tell you or something. It's like, well, I just got my ass kicked by gingerbread man or something like that. He's like, I can handle whatever you got to tell me. But the Jack-in-the-Box kind of falls down through the ceiling. Howard goes to shoot it, but then the angel flies down from the ceiling hole, and then the bear is all back again. So essentially nobody like killed any of the toys. They just kind of wounded them, they retreated or whatever, and then they came out to surprise attack later. The bear is back, and then Aunt Dorothy takes the shotgun. She shoots the bear. She shoots the angel. This is one of my favorite shots. So she shoots the angel, and it zips right into the wreath.
Oh, yeah.
Sits there for a little bit, and then just kind of falls down. It's like, okay, that's fun. And then she goes to shoot the Jack-in-the-Box, and then it starts to clap. And then at that point, you're like, oh, what the fuck is going on? Like, it's not attacking. It's just like laughing, wiggling, clapping. And elves start to storm the house, and they
fucking elves.
So that's those creatures that
it's
were
like
out
the
front.
Santa Claus with evil.
Yep.
Like they come flying across like the rooftops and shit.
Yep.
No, these are like evil elves.
No, these are the evil ones. So they came in, the little assholes came in instantly through snow. I'm assuming through snow onto the fire to put the fire out. They take Aunt Dorothy into the blizzard. They kind of wrap her up with chains. They grab the baby, and then they're cornering the entire family. And as they're leaving with the baby, Howard yells, "Fuck this twisted fairy tale horseshit" or something like that. He jumps and he grabs onto the chains, and he's pulled outside now as well. At that point, a horn sounds, and all the elves leave, pointing towards the rest of the family. So at that point, I believe it's just Tom, Linda, Sarah, Max, and Ami. Ami goes back over to the fire, and she tries to light a match to kind of leave the fire hot. And then I believe it's Old Saint Nick starts playing. It's like Up on the Roof.
Yeah,
it's not that song is playing, but it sounds like a slower version. So.
Yeah, well, I think now that you say that, the composer of the movie basically stated that like a lot of the music and stuff that he used is traditional like Christmas carols and stuff, but he did like twisted versions of them and threw some like pagan music in on top of it.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So he incorporated like chains and bells and then like animal bones and animal skin drums and stuff into the score.
Gotcha.
Plus like choirs that were singing in different like dialects and different languages and stuff. So you might hear things like Old Saint Nicholas, but like it's mixed in with
twisted
a whole bunch
version
of
it.
Twisted pagan style.
Yeah, which is cool. So they're all, the whole family is now they're gonna hold on to each other, and they're gonna brave the storm, and they're slowly like single file leaving the house. And Ami is the last one, but she shuts the door and stays inside. And you hear Krampus shrieking. Tom Adam Scott is telling him, "Mom, open the door," and they kind of have to pull him away because they know that she's staying to face Krampus to hopefully give them a little bit more time to survive.
Martyring herself.
Yes, yep. So everything in the house is freezing over as Krampus makes his descent through the chimney. The horns appear, the hoods, the chain. The creature slowly sticks his head out and kind of crawls out, horn first, through the chimney and walks towards Ami. He sticks his tongue out. His tongue was CGI. Just fun. He opens his bag for Ami, and she looks into it, and a bunch of toys lunge out.
He hands her the bell,
the
he?
bell, right?
He gives her the bell again or whatever, and then makes her kind of go into
the bag. Yep. Which she doesn't really put up a fight, but she wasn't planning to. I mean, she's an old lady. She was just a distraction.
Yeah, she was like Luke meeting Darth Vader after a long period of time. Like,
So
a long time since I've seen you, Krampus.
Yep. So now Tom, Sarah, Linda, Max, and Stevie reach the snowplow as the creature from earlier comes towards them, which I would have liked to seen which this creature, maybe it was the Jack-in-Box that was like slithering around under the snow. I don't know.
Oh, like the snow,
but I don't know what's
the snow demon thing?
Yeah, so I don't know what exactly that is because we never really see it.
They don't really make a point. It's almost like Tremors, and I think it's kind of what they were going
like a worm
for.
Creature, yep.
Was like that worm-like creature.
It would have been cool to see what it was, but that creature is running towards them, and Tom now shoots at it and tells them to go while he holds them off. So Adam Scott now is playing martyr, distracting, shooting at this thing to give the family time. It circles him and finally pulls him under just as the others kind of reach towards the plow. Just as they are, Linda now is attacked and pulled under while Sarah puts Stevie in the car. She goes back and now is also being attacked by this. So while Max and Stevie are in the snowplow, Linda, Max's mother, Sarah, Max's mother, is staring at him through the window, and she gets pulled under as well. So now it's just Stevie and Max, and the plow won't start. And of course, the elves are back. The elves start to surround the plow, and they just can't get this thing to start. And even if they could, I like how Max plays like, I don't even know how to drive this thing. So the elves pull Stevie out, but Max fights back. Max knocks the elf down, and the snow creature takes the elf and rushes away. So that's kind of why I wanted to see what that creature was, because it seemed like it was just attacking everything, because it took one of the elves.
Yeah.
But who knows? But Stevie is being dragged away. Krampus jumps down in front of Max and drops the letter to Santa that earlier he ripped up after that dinner fight. He gives him a Krampus bell, which, again, if you're watching on video, I have the little bell right here.
Ooh, I just noticed that.
It is broken because I dropped it.
Literally just noticed you had the bell.
Yeah, I got the bell. It's broken, but it's the bell. It's the same bell that Ami was given as a child. And we hear like an overlay of when Ami was saying her story, and that Max is the reminder, essentially, to keep the Christmas spirit.
I kind of wanted like an alternative ending of this movie where Max doesn't like
just fuck everything up.
Yeah, he's just like, all right, and then you got like old man Max.
So I'm curious what would have come of everybody else had Max not got involved.
Probably same fate that they say.
But he's out and they're in, I guess, essentially.
Yeah.
So Max now still sees that like they're pulling Stevie. He can still hear her voice. So he chases after Krampus and the elves. And this is where I do like to see this stuff. Like we get to see like Krampus's like super like evil sleigh, these giant horned creatures that are his reindeer, which they look like those creatures from like Star Wars, like on like Hoth.
Yeah,
like those
the Tauntauns.
Yeah, they remind me of like the Tauntauns. They're headbutting each other. That's just kind of what they reminded me of. And now Max calls out to them and he says that he takes back his wish, because that's just how it works, I guess.
That's how it works. Krampus just lets you take it back.
Yeah. He throws the bell towards them, and at that point, this like lava pit to the underworld starts to open up, and Krampus heads over towards it. Max rushes towards Krampus. The elves hold. This is probably one of my favorite parts in this thing. Is the elves are holding Stevie, opening the opening, and Max says that to take him instead. He knows that he can fix everything, so just take him instead. Krampus, like, everything kind of slows down, and Krampus like uses this like big claw thing and wipes a tear off of his face. And they start to kind of like, it seems like they're questioning, like, should they do this? Should they not? And then they all just start bursting into laughter. And then they just push Stevie in anyways.
Yeah,
just like,
it's so good.
Fuck you, kid. Like, you don't get to just undo this.
Rubs his tear away.
Yeah.
And he's like, fuck you.
It showed like, there's like a small sense of compassion, and they're like, psych. And then Krampus grabs Max and drops him into the pit as well.
Yep.
Cut to black. And then it fades to white. So Max is falling to the red and turns to white. And then we pan inwards from the window, back in Max's room, and he suddenly screams. He wakes up. He was in the bed under the covers, and this is seemingly just a crazy dream. And outside you can see there's houses in the snow, but it's not, there's no snowman. It's not a blizzard.
It's still eerie, though.
Yep.
It's like eerily...
Too perfect.
Yeah.
Yep.
It almost got me. It almost
Yep.
was like... Oh, it really was only a dream. But then as we kind of went through it, like, oh, no.
Yep.
No. It's something else here.
Mm-hmm. He looks up to his advent calendar, and the 25th day of his advent calendar is not yet opened. So he opens it. There's a little nice picture of St. Nicholas. And he hears voices downstairs as the family is back waiting to open presents. So as he rushes down, he's greeted by Beth saying, oh, man, we never thought you'd wake up. And David Koechner's like, oh, hey, man, I thought the sugar plum fairy gotcha. It's just like a happy-go-lucky, jolly old family time. They're opening presents. Ami passes out hot chocolate. She wishes him a very Merry Christmas. Jordan gets brass knuckles. Max is just elated. He's happy. This is what he wished for. This is like in the beginning, he wished Christmas was the way it used to be, which I don't think it ever was this way, but sure, in his mind, maybe it was.
Yeah, maybe. Max
hugs his mom and then has a present. And it's a creepy looking present. Looks very bad wrapping. Doesn't look like everything else. But nobody really makes note of it. He opens the present, which is this mysterious box, and inside is the Krampus bell. And the tone changes.
Dun.
The music slows down. The whole family starts looking very uneasy.
I think it.
They're
I don't know about you,
nervous.
but at this point, I still thought that all right, maybe he thought it was a dream, but maybe Krampus actually did say, all right, I'm going to give you and your family a second chance.
And it all came back to them at that moment.
Well,
or...
yeah, but I thought that like for a hot second, I thought that the bell meant I gave you a second chance, but I need you to remember what'll happen the next time this happens. And I won't give you I won't give you another chance. But then obviously, I was wrong.
Yep. So the tone changes. There's a good moment where there's a lot of voiceover work, where it's all voiceovers of like stuff they were saying during the movie, which is really fun. And we kind of pan out. Now we cut to a record player. The fire roars, and then we pan out through the window to reveal that the house is in a snow globe. And the snow globe is in a dark room full of snow globes. And we keep panning out until that one last jump scare with all the toys.
That stupid jump scare.
And that is 2015 Krampus. I love this movie.
Yeah.
It's fun. I can see the faults in it.
I don't love it.
Yep. I can see the faults in it for sure.
I do enjoy it. I think it's fun. I think it's one of those movies where like I can watch it, at Christmas time or at Halloween and just watch it to have some fun, to shut my brain off for a minute and just enjoy some irreverent like horror comedy, I guess. I'm not looking for anything too deep in it, and I don't think you should be to begin with.
There's not much deep to look at.
There's not a whole lot to look for. There's just some of the characters do make it a little bit harder for me to want to watch it again.
Yeah.
It's one of those movies where like
you can watch it once a year.
Yeah. You watch it like once a year. You watch it once because you remember, oh yeah, I gotta watch Krampus, and then you remember, oh, this movie isn't as good as I remember it being, but it's still like one of those movies where like you kind of have to watch. It's like Nightmare Before Christmas, where like, you have to watch it.
Yeah.
During the season,
it's a staple.
It's just like a necessary movie to watch.
Yeah. No, it's on the list for sure. And I think we talked earlier about the Horror Nights house. I'm gonna try to remember it. Pretty much the house, I from what I remember, is like you're walking into the house, so you enter a wintry facade. You see the house, you enter. You pretty much are just walking through the movie. You get a scene where the gingerbread men are in the kitchen. You get a scene with the attic with the toys. You get a scene in Krampus's hut with like the snow globe. You pretty much walk your way through the movie, essentially, the attacks. So it was just very fun.
Kind of what I figured.
There's a lot of good like little jump scares. There was a lot of elf jump scares. The Jack in the Box is there as a person clapping and scaring and stuff like that.
I think it sounds like one of those houses that like
it was your Ghostbusters, it was your Killer Clowns.
Yeah, it was one of those. It's one of those ones like how you feel about the movie is how you're gonna feel about the house. I don't think the house is gonna change your opinion on the movie.
Yeah,
in any way, I guess is my point. So it sounds like it will be one of those ones where it's like, yeah, that was fun. That was enjoyable.
Yeah.
Not my top, but
no, a fun movie nonetheless. So that is 2015 Krampus. Any other thoughts on this? I know we usually do our fear and beer reviews. So, for your fear ranking, where would you put this at?
So my fear ranking, I'll give it a 1.
Okay.
We tend to find that we do a lot of movies where like it's not very scary.
Yeah, no.
We don't do very scary movies.
And that also comes to like, well, and that also comes to like, if you showed this to somebody else who's not as like, I don't think it's scary per se. I don't think it's
scary at all. I think it has some creepy moments. I think the creature design is really good, and that's creepy. But as far as like overall scares, it's not scary really at all. No. So I'll give it a 1 for the creep factor on the creatures.
Yeah,
but that's probably pretty much it.
Yeah, I'd probably honestly, I'll put a 1.5. I think some of the design is scary. I'm taking out the fact that I've seen this movie a bunch of times. Maybe if somebody hadn't seen it, they would, feel a little bit more scared by it. Oh, that's interesting. On the DVD cover, there is a like a nutcracker on the little side panel. but a character we didn't see in this movie.
yeah,
so
true.
That would have been a cool addition. So yeah, for my fear ranking,
maybe it was in a cut scene or something.
yeah, for my fear ranking, I'll give this a 1.5. Definitely not scary per se. And how about your beer ranking? How much fun you had watching this movie?
Yeah, I would give this probably like a 3.5. Well, yeah, 3.5.
Okay.
For my for my beer rating, how much did I enjoy it rating? Yeah, like I said, I think it's a fun movie.
Yeah.
Not the best horror Christmas movie ever.
No.
Not my first go-to. Obviously, Nightmare Before Christmas would be my first one. But this is, up there. I mean, I would, like I said, it's one of those ones where like I could see myself going back and watching this every Christmas.
Yeah.
Now that I've seen it a couple times for the first time. But yeah, 3.5 seems fair.
Yeah, I'll continue my trend of doing 0.5 more. I'll give this a 4. I do like this movie. If you can't see on YouTube, I'm wearing my Krampus shirt. Nice little. I think it's from Cavity Colors. I also got the nice little Krampus tattoo up on my thigh of the Krampus hand in the snow globe. So this is a movie that I do enjoy a lot. I can revisit this a couple times a year. I understand when people can't. I see all of your points, and I'm able to look past them to a little bit. But yeah, that's all I really got left for, I think, Krampus from 2015. Any other final thoughts on it at all? Or?
No, it was, again, I think we've kind of said what we had to say about it. I think one last fact that I thought interesting about this, we didn't really talk about in the beginning, is that, like, this movie almost didn't get made because they wanted to do it as a rated R. But Universal refused to do it until they dropped their rating. And
Probably smart.
I think part of it was because there's a lot of controversy around making scary, not tongue-in-cheek, horror-based Christmas movies.
Yeah.
Like Black Christmas back in the 70s was really taboo at the time. Other movies in this vein, like they definitely, Hollywood isn't super down with it.
Yeah.
So to do it, like, Silent Night, Deadly Night, like another one where it's like you're making Santa a killer.
Yeah, the public does not like that.
It's hard to pull that off, and a lot of times they don't. And the only reason these movies have any success is because there's a cult following that builds behind it. So yeah, it's successful after the fact. But to get like a worldwide, not worldwide, but like to get a more national release with a lot more butts and seats, I guess if you want to say it that way, they have to kind of drop these ratings down to make them more accessible and make them a little less over the top in like a serious way. Like, so they really don't make scary, violent Christmas horror movies anymore. If they do make them, it's like this, where it's like PG-13 takes like some sort of like fairy tale or trope and like does it up as like almost like a older kids kind of horror family movie in a way. I just thought that was an interesting fact that you didn't really think about it until they released something like this. But they did they just release that new movie? It's not really a horror movie, but that one with David with the Hopper in it.
Violent Night.
Violent Night. He plays Santa and he kills.
He's like a military Santa. I gotta see it. It looks very fun.
Fights like a bunch of like mob guys who want to like end Christmas or whatever.
Yeah.
But it seems again like one of those like it's kind of violent, but it's like PG-13 violence, not like legitimate serious. This is like some messed up stuff going on.
Yeah, no, that one looks, and it's so outrageous that it's like if it's called Violent Night, you should know.
Yeah, I do want to see that movie. I want to watch that.
I'll have to check that out at some point. So yeah, that's that for Krampus. At this point, I'm just gonna stop saying we'll be back next week. The plan is to be back next week. Christmas is next week.
Obviously, the holidays make it a little bit harder on us.
It's tougher. So we have an idea.
Not talking about everything else that's gone on in the last couple of weeks, but like that specifically,
just
is
in general.
Hard.
We have an idea for an episode. If we get to it, we get to it. If we don't, we will keep you all updated as best as we can. But the game plan for now is to get an episode out next week for you. And like I said, I'm not going to say what the episode is. And I'm not going to promise that it's going to be there because as these last couple of weeks have proven that it's just things are crazy right now. If we don't talk to everybody, hopefully you guys all have great holidays, Merry Christmas, New Year, all that fun stuff. But the plan as of today is to get an episode done next week in time for that pre-Christmas Saturday.
I'm
Sunday? I
sure.
don't
I'm
know
sure we
what's on.
can probably make something happen.
Yeah, but until next time, this is Nick.